Britain does hospitality rather well. Creaking staircases, four-poster beds, fires crackling in ancient hearths, night porters who know your name before you have spoken it, the country inn experience that visitors cross oceans to find. But some hotels have guests who never checked out. Scattered across these islands are establishments where housekeeping refuses certain corridors after dark, where night managers have handed in their notice after a single shift, where the records mention incidents that the owners would rather not discuss with potential guests. I have gone through historic archives and staff testimonies to bring you 15 hotels where something is deeply and genuinely wrong. Let us begin with a building that has stood for 900 years in the Welsh countryside. The Skirrid Mountain Inn in Monmouthshire sits at the foot of Skirrid Mountain, surrounded by farmland that has changed little since the Norman conquest. Drive past on a summer afternoon and you see nothing but a charming country pub with whitewashed walls and hanging baskets. Step inside and the atmosphere shifts. Legend holds that as many as 180 criminals were sentenced to death within these walls. The inn served as a courtroom, and the sentence was carried out immediately. Prisoners were hanged from an oak beam over the stairwell. The rope marks remain visible in the wood to this day. You can reach up and touch the grooves if you dare. The former landlady, Heather Grant, lived alone in the building for years. She often saw a shadow walking up the stairs and along the corridor. When she put the pub up for sale in 2002, she told the BBC that glasses started mysteriously flying in the kitchen. She said there had been lots of spooky goings-on since she had been there. When she first moved in, she confessed that she was pretty unnerved. The most feared presence is that of Judge John Jeffreys, a hanging judge whose spirit supposedly haunts the upper levels, still seeking victims. Guests report sudden choking sensations in the night, as if an invisible noose were tightening around their throats. Some have woken gasping for air, clawing at their necks, certain that something was wrapped around their throat. Room 3 belongs to Fanny Price, a woman who worked at the inn during the 18th century and died of consumption at 35. Her spirit appears alongside the smell of lavender. But not all encounters are gentle. In one disturbing episode, a female guest came running downstairs with wet hair, wearing nothing but a coat, screaming that someone had tried to kill her in the bath. The staff no longer question these stories. They simply work around them. New employees are warned on their first day. Some last a week. Some do not return after their first close. Travelling east to the cobbled streets of Rye in East Sussex, we find the Mermaid Inn. This Grade 2 listed building dates back to the 12th century and carries all the hallmarks of a haunted establishment. Secret passages, priest holes, sliding wall panels that reveal hidden chambers. The building is a labyrinth of stone and timber, rebuilt in 1420 after French raiders burned the original structure to the ground. The inn served as a stronghold for the notorious Hawkhurst gang of smugglers between 1730 and 1740. These were violent men who thought nothing of murder. They would sit in the common room cleaning their weapons in full view of other patrons. No one dared report them. No one dared speak against them. Their spirits are said to remain. Guests frequently wake at 4 in the morning to the sound of steel clashing. A spectral duel between two men in 16th century clothing plays out by the fireplace. According to legend, the winner drags the body across the floor and tips it through a trapdoor into the cellar. This scene repeats night after night. The same combat, the same outcome, the same body disappearing into darkness. Room 1 is haunted by a lady in white or grey who sits in the chair by the fireplace. Guests report waking to find their clothes on the chair soaking wet, despite no windows or pipes being anywhere near. The water appears from nowhere. It soaks through fabric and pools on the floor. By morning, it has vanished entirely, leaving no trace. Room 10 has something worse. A man who walks through the bathroom wall into the main room, terrifying guests who wake to find him standing at the foot of their bed. He does not speak. He does not move toward them. He simply stands there watching until sleep becomes impossible. The guest list reads like a royal registry. Prince Edward stayed here, the Queen Mother, Johnny Depp, Pierce Brosnan. But even celebrity cannot keep the ghosts at bay. A Hello editor noted that as she was checking in, other guests were complaining at reception about unusual noises in the night. The front desk staff nodded wearily. They had heard these complaints before. They would hear them again. Further west on the windswept expanse of Bodmin Moor sits Jamaica Inn. This 18th century coaching house gained worldwide notoriety through Daphne du Maurier's novel of the same name. But the real history is darker than any fiction. The inn was a haven for smugglers and wreckers, men who lured ships onto rocks with false lights and murdered surviving sailors for their cargo. On stormy nights, they would hang lanterns on the cliff tops to mimic the pattern of safe harbour lights. Ships would steer toward them and meet their doom on the jagged rocks below. The wreckers would wade into the surf and kill anyone who survived the crash. They stripped the vessels of everything valuable. Bodies washed ashore for weeks afterward. The paranormal activity reflects this violence. Footsteps echo through empty corridors. Children laugh and babies cry in rooms where no children stay. Most famously, horses and carts can be heard moving through the courtyard long after midnight. The clatter of hooves on cobblestones, the creak of wooden wheels, the shouts of drivers urging their animals forward. When guests look out their windows, the courtyard is empty. Room 5 is said to be haunted by a mother and child. The young girl is often referred to as Hannah. She appears in the corner of the room, watching guests as they sleep. Her mother stands beside her, one hand resting protectively on the girl's shoulder. Neither speaks, neither moves. They simply observe. The ghost of a murdered man has been seen in the main bar, sitting on a wall outside, as if waiting for a coach that will never arrive. His clothes are torn and stained. His face is pale as milk. He waits through rain and wind and darkness. He waits forever. The television program Most Haunted filmed one of their spookiest episodes here. The British Paranormal Association compiled a full report on their findings. Staff and guests report being touched by unseen hands while sleeping, having their hair pulled, and seeing dark, shadowy figures moving through corridors and the kitchen. One chef quit after something grabbed his arm while he was working alone during the early morning prep shift. He felt the fingers. He felt the grip tighten. But when he turned around, there was nothing there. Now we move to buildings of stone and siege. The castles. Dalhousie Castle stands in the Scottish countryside near Edinburgh, a 13th century fortress now operating as a luxury hotel and spa. The original tower was built in the 1200s, with extensions added over the following centuries. Thick stone walls, narrow windows designed for defense, a dungeon that once held prisoners in absolute darkness. The most prominent spirit is Lady Catherine. She died at just 16, in 1695. She had been caught with a stable hand and was banished to the castle tower as punishment. Her family locked her away in shame. She was forbidden from leaving, and she was forbidden from speaking to anyone. She wasted away in isolation, and her spirit never found peace. Her mist-like apparition has been photographed during times of celebration. Wedding guests have captured strange shapes in their photos, white mist that seems to form a human figure, a face emerging from shadow. Visitors have seen her looking down from the turrets, waving to those passing below. Some say she waves in greeting. Others believe she is trying to warn them away. But Lady Catherine is not alone. Sir Alexander Ramsay haunts the dungeon where he met his end in 1342. He was starved to death by his captors over the course of 17 agonizing days. His suffering appears to continue. Guests who visit the dungeon report hearing moans of hunger, scratching sounds on stone, the desperate pleading of a man who knows that death is coming slowly. Crossing the Irish Sea to Northern Ireland, Ballygally Castle rises above the coast near Lyon. Built in 1625 by James Shaw and his wife Isabella Brisbane, the castle was originally a Protestant refuge during various conflicts. The Scottish baronial architecture remains largely intact. Turrets and towers overlook the Irish Sea. The sunsets are spectacular. The nights are troubled. Lady Isabella's ghost has walked these halls for almost 400 years. The story is one of cruelty. After giving birth to their son, James Shaw snatched the baby and locked Isabella in a turret at the top of the castle. She died falling from the high room while trying to escape. Some say she jumped in despair. Others say she fell while attempting to climb down the outer wall. Either way, her body was broken on the stones below. Her spirit has never stopped searching for her stolen child. Guests report sudden temperature changes. They report knocking on doors when no one can be seen outside. They report a green mist hovering above the castle on certain nights. The staff speak of her with something between pity and fear. They have seen her walking the corridors in a flowing gown. They have heard her weeping in empty rooms. One night, a porter resigned after encountering her 3 times in a single shift. Ruthin Castle in Wales dates back to the 13th century, built by Edward I in 1217. Now a luxury hotel and spa, it is regarded as one of the most haunted castles in the country. The castle saw siege and battle. It was partially destroyed during the English Civil War. It was rebuilt, ruined, and rebuilt again. Each era left its mark. Each era left its dead. The Grey Lady dominates the hauntings. She was the wife of the second-in-command during the days of Edward I. Legend says she murdered her husband's mistress and was sentenced to death for the crime. The axe fell on a cold morning. Her head rolled across the courtyard stones. But death did not end her presence. Her vengeful spirit roams the halls and battlements. Staff who work the night shift learn quickly which corridors to avoid after midnight. The Grey Lady does not like to be disturbed. She does not like witnesses. Those who have encountered her describe an overwhelming sense of rage emanating from her translucent form. Cold anger that seeps into the bones. Lumley Castle has dominated the County Durham landscape for over 600 years. The hotel is surrounded by beautiful parkland with individually designed bedrooms and a restaurant proud of its local ingredients. The castle was built by Sir Ralph Lumley in 1389. He was later executed for treason. His ghost has been seen walking the grounds, perhaps still protesting his innocence. But the most famous spirit is Lily of Lumley. Lady Lily Lumley was murdered by Catholic priests who threw her down a well after she refused to convert from Protestantism. Her body was hidden. Her death was covered up. But her spirit would not be silenced. Countless experiences have been recorded here. Cold spots move through rooms. Doors open and close on their own. Voices appear in empty corridors. Footsteps sound on stairs when the staircase is clearly visible and empty. The history seeps through the stone. The dead do not rest quietly within these walls. Now we enter the grand hotels. Victorian opulence, concealing Victorian tragedy. The Langham Hotel in London is widely considered the most haunted hotel in the capital. Built in 1865 as London's first purpose-built grand hotel with nearly 500 rooms, the building represented the height of Victorian luxury. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, staff in immaculate uniforms attending to the needs of wealthy guests. The paranormal activity became apparent when the building was owned by the BBC. At least 5 ghosts were discovered, making regular appearances. Room 333 is the epicenter. The most chilling legend involves a Victorian doctor. He and his wife checked into the room on their wedding night. Neither left alive. The doctor murdered his wife and then killed himself. Some accounts say he strangled her. Others say he used a razor. The details vary, but the outcome remains constant. Their spirits became prisoners, unable or perhaps unwilling to leave. They remain trapped in the room where they died, playing out their final moments for eternity. A BBC journalist reported in 1973 that he awoke one October night to a ball of bright light that transformed into the shape of a man. The figure wore ornate Victorian evening dress. His eyes were vacant. He was missing the lower half of his legs. The apparition moved toward the journalist, who fled the room in terror. He ran barefoot down the corridor, pounding on doors, shouting for help. When a colleague accompanied him back, they both witnessed the figure fading and disappearing. Other BBC staff came forward with identical accounts. All had stayed in room 333. All said the month was October. The ghost seemed to prefer autumn, appearing most frequently when the nights grew long. A German prince who killed himself by jumping from a fourth-floor window has been sighted walking through doors in the early morning. Napoleon III, who spent much of his exile from France at the Langham, also makes ghostly appearances. Staff have seen him in full military dress, striding through the lobby as if reviewing troops. He vanishes when approached. In 2014, the England cricket team stayed at the hotel. Reports emerged that some players could not sleep. Stuart Broad recounted how the taps in his bathroom turned on by themselves. When he switched on the lights, they stopped. When he turned the lights off, they started again. The water flowed and ceased, as if controlled by invisible hands. He requested a room change immediately. Ben Stokes had problems sleeping on the third floor. He heard unexplained noises throughout the night. Doors opening and closing, footsteps in the corridor that stopped directly outside his room. Moeen Ali's partner refused to stay at the hotel entirely after hearing the accounts from other players. The haunting had reached the sports pages. Headlines asked whether ghosts had rattled the England squad. The Schooner Hotel in Alnmouth on the Northumberland coast has twice been named Britain's most haunted hotel by the Poltergeist Society. This Grade 2 listed 17th century coach house has around 60 resident spirits. More than 3,000 paranormal sightings have been reported. The walls are thick with activity. Every room has a story, and every corridor has been the site of an encounter. The numbers continue to climb. Ghost hunting events are held regularly, attracting enthusiasts from across the country and beyond. Eerie incidents have increased significantly in recent years. The hotel leans into its reputation because it has little choice. The ghosts are not going anywhere. Guests have reported full-bodied apparitions standing at the foot of their beds, objects moving on their own across tables and shelves, the sound of a woman screaming from empty rooms. One couple checked out at 3 a.m. after something invisible sat down on their bed beside them. They felt the mattress compress, they heard the springs creak, but they saw nothing at all. Nos Castle in Swansea was purchased by Italian opera star Adelina Patti in 1878. It was her home until her death in 1919. She transformed the building into a palace of music and art. She built a private theatre within the castle walls. The finest performers of the age came to entertain her guests. The haunting suggests it may still be her home. Opera singing echoes through certain areas of the castle with no source. The voice is female, high and clear, performing arias that Patti made famous during her lifetime. Staff have followed the sound through corridor after corridor, room after room, never finding the singer. The music stops when they get too close. It resumes when they walk away. After Patti's death, the building served as a tuberculosis hospital. Patients who died there have their own stories to tell. Strange figures in the corridors wearing hospital gowns that no longer exist. Unexplained sounds from the old wards, coughing and gasping from rooms that have been empty for decades. In 2004, Most Haunted featured the castle in one of their investigations. The team captured audio recordings that defied explanation. The Golden Fleece in York is one of the most haunted places in a city known for its ghosts. York itself sits on centuries of history, from Roman foundations to Viking settlements to medieval expansion. The dead are layered beneath the streets like sediment. The Golden Fleece seems to attract more than its share. Over 15 spirits reportedly reside here. The most notable is Lady Alice Peckett, wife of John Peckett, former Lord Mayor of York and one-time owner of the inn. She died in the building under circumstances that remain unclear, and her spirit has never accepted departure. Staff and guests have seen Alice wandering the cramped, dark corridors late at night. She walks up and down the old wooden staircase. She appears without warning and vanishes the same way. Her footsteps are audible on the creaking boards. Her presence is felt as a sudden chill that passes through the body. One reviewer noted that the in-house paranormal team will introduce you to some of the 37 ghosts that frequent the Black Swan. The staff simply work around them. They know which rooms are most active and which nights bring the most encounters. They carry on with their duties regardless. A small boy has been seen in the cellar, running between the barrels. A Canadian airman from World War II haunts one of the upper rooms. He was stationed nearby and died in a crash. His spirit returned to the last place he felt happy. A one-eyed man in a red coat appears on the stairs. No one knows who he was or how he died. He simply watches. Now we arrive at the buildings with the darkest histories, places that were never meant for hospitality. The ancient Ram Inn in Watton-under-Edge in Gloucestershire is a Grade 2 star-listed building. The late medieval structure was remodelled in the 16th century. It now operates as a guest house, and its owners advertise it as the most haunted building in England, with around 20 ghosts. The claim is difficult to dispute. The past owner, John Humphreys, moved in during 1968. On his first night, he said a demonic force grabbed his arm and dragged him from the bed across the room. He woke to find his body sliding across the floor as if pulled by invisible hands. He struggled and fought, but could not break free. When the grip finally released, he lay trembling in the darkness, too terrified to move until dawn. He found evidence of devil worship and ritual sacrifice in the building. Digging beneath the staircase, he discovered the skeletal remains of children alongside broken daggers. The site had been used for ceremonies that required blood. The darkness had seeped into the foundations. After a few years, the place was no longer suitable as a normal bed and breakfast. It had become far too dangerous. Only ghost hunters, mediums, and paranormal enthusiasts are willing to spend the night. Tales include demonic attacks, ritual sacrifice, a bishop driven from an attempted exorcism, spectral children, a murdered witch, and items violently hurled at visitors. Chairs have flown across rooms. Doors have slammed with force enough to shake the walls. Something dwells here that does not want company. The building evolved into an event location for paranormal activity. There was no other choice. Regular guests could not handle what the building contained. Bodmin Jail in Cornwall operated as a prison for almost 150 years. In that time, it saw over 50 public hangings. Crowds would gather in the courtyard to watch the executions. Vendors sold food and drink. Children sat on their parents' shoulders to get a better view. The condemned would climb the scaffold, the rope would tighten, and another life would end for the entertainment of the masses. Today, it has been renovated into a luxury boutique hotel. The cells have been transformed into guest rooms. The execution yard is now a courtyard garden. But the past is not so easily erased. Visitors and guests report tugging on their clothes, invisible fingers pulling at sleeves and collars. The screams of children echo through stone corridors. These are not the playful shouts of living children. They are cries of terror and pain. The apparition of Anne, who was left to starve to death after refusing to admit she was a witch, has been seen by multiple witnesses. She appears emaciated, hollow-eyed, reaching out as if begging for food that will never come. Another ghostly figure appears in the bar and restaurant area. A man in prison clothing sits alone at tables, staring at nothing. Staff have tried to take his order before realizing he was not there at all. The Most Haunted team investigated during their 6th series, and they found what they were looking for. Ettington Park Hotel sits on 40 acres of parkland in Warwickshire. Featured in the 1963 film The Haunting, it has previously been named the most haunted hotel in Britain by the Automobile Association. The neo-Gothic architecture creates an atmosphere of brooding grandeur. Towers and turrets rise against the sky. The grounds are beautiful, but the shadows are deep. The retired night manager Michael Kenny experienced countless ghosts and paranormal encounters during his time there. Books would fly, launching themselves from shelves with no one nearby. Male voices spoke with no source, holding conversations in rooms that were locked and empty. There were sounds of billiard balls in rooms where no billiard table exists. The crack of ivory against ivory, the roll across green felt. Yet the billiard room was converted long ago. The stories from visitors are countless. The reputation stretches back generations. One couple reported that their bedroom door would not stay closed. No matter how many times they shut it, they would turn around to find it standing wide open. A guest in the library felt someone sit down beside them on an empty sofa, the cushion compressed. A cold presence settled next to them. They did not stay to finish their book. We end in Chester at Ye Old King's Head, now known as My Haunted Hotel. This 400-year-old inn sits at the heart of one of Britain's most haunted cities. Chester was a Roman fortress before it was a medieval market town. Centuries of death and conflict have left their mark. Over the last couple of years, the hotel has documented over 4,000 eyewitness accounts. The numbers continue to grow weekly. The building is home to the UK's most haunted artifact, the Grace Doll. In 1648, a man named Richard Everard was murdered in the hotel during a political argument. The English Civil War was tearing the country apart. Tempers ran high, allegiances were questioned, words were exchanged, and then blades were drawn. Richard fell to the floor of the hallway, his blood pooling on the wooden boards. His body was laid out in the hallway. By the time authorities arrived, the corpse had vanished. No one knows who moved it or where it was taken. His spirit is said to have retreated into room 4. Guests staying there report sudden extreme temperature drops. They describe the icy breath of Richard on their necks. They feel someone sitting heavily on the edge of the bed when the room is empty. The mattress dips under invisible weight. They wake to find the covers pulled back as if someone has just stood up. They hear breathing in the darkness. They feel eyes upon them, but see nothing at all. These buildings still operate as businesses. Staff still clock in for the night shift. Some refuse certain duties. Most learn to look away. The night porter makes a silent accommodation with what cannot be explained. Somewhere in Britain right now, a guest is lying awake in an unfamiliar bed. The corridor outside their room is quiet. Too quiet. They heard footsteps a moment ago. They are certain of it. But when they opened the door, there was no one there. Just empty carpet stretching into shadow. Just doors to other rooms where other guests are having the same experience. The next time you check into a hotel, you might ask which room they are giving you. You might check the history of the building. You might notice that the receptionist pauses just a moment too long before handing you the key. You might see the look exchanged between staff members, the slight shake of the head, the unspoken warning. Some questions are better left unasked. Some doors are better left unopened after dark. And some hotels have guests who checked in centuries ago and have no intention of ever leaving. Sleep well.